Hello, my heartbreak homies. I'm happy you're here. Maybe you're not feeling so happy, and I hope that this video will inspire some hope and some personal power and some self-love and a perspective to look at what you are going through with a lens of opportunity, because this human experience that we all go through is so confusing and so painful. And it is actually this really great gift, if we choose to look at it as such, for us to level up. And I myself am coming out of the tail end of a breakup portal that has been absolutely transformational for me. It has been so difficult and so tough, so I'm not sugarcoating this by any means. But what I hope to inspire with this video and with these steps that I have found to be supportive of my own leveling up in the context of heartbreak, I hope to inspire a bigger perspective of what this can offer you in the grand scheme of things, not just in this moment in time, but if you zoom out and you are having a conversation with your future self, who you can become as a result of this is absolute fucking magic. And I've been sitting on this video for a little bit as I've kind of concocted the steps, but there's so much information about heartbreak and breakups because we're all going through it. You know, this is such a common human experience. It's kind of unavoidable. I don't know if anybody, if you're avoiding heartbreak, you're missing out on life. Let me say that much. As much as it can suck and does suck at times, to love is such a, if it's not the purpose of life, what is, you know? And there's a risk of vulnerability to be hurt. The question is, what do we do with that hurt? And so I want to help you really make some fucking magic out of this hurt. And yeah, there's so much to say. I think I've been kind of procrastinating on this because, one, I want to make sure that I'm super integrated before I start to speak about these topics. But there's so much out there. And there's so much to be said. There could be hours of content on this. So this is not all-inclusive by any means, but I hope that it gives you some tips and points you in the right direction for how to heal fully. And this is so important that you do this, whether you are a leader or not, but especially so if you're a leader, because the hurt that we avoid fully processing, we carry with us into our future. And it affects us. It creates more suffering for us, and it's going to affect our loved ones. It's going to affect those that we lead. I can guarantee you that many of the goofy ass politicians up there who are using their power over others, who are trying to hoard from a place of insecurity, they've been through heartbreaks that they did not deal with effectively. And they are carrying that pain within them, and other people are paying for it. And so if you are a leader watching this right now, or an aspiring young leader watching this right now, I offer you the perspective to really handle this responsibly, not just for yourself, but for those that you are in service of over the course of a lifetime. Because if you push this down, if you avoid this, it will come back to bite you. And that enough is worth you facing it courageously, but especially so if you're in a position of power and you want to support and care for others in your life. And I know you do, I know you care. This is so important to face head on and to fully process. And I want to just say, let's just take a moment. So close your eyes, put a hand on your heart if that feels accessible to you, and just take a deep breath, breathing into the nose, letting it out, relaxing your shoulders, just feeling your feet on the ground. And I just want to let you know I love you. You are not alone. And we're going to get through this together. I love you. I got you. And we're going to get through this together. This is from me to you, human to human. And I want you to say it to yourself. Because so much of this, the opportunity in this hurt, is to deepen your own love of self, to deepen your own self-trust, to deepen your own self-respect, to deepen your self-leadership. And so let this be an opportunity to lead your healing. I love you. I got you. And we're going to get through this together. Okay. Opening your eyes. Let's get it started. The first thing, we got to call on and lean on the village. So many of us get pulled into patterns of codependency where we put so much on the other person. And I think it's unavoidable. And to varying degrees, we do it in dysfunctional ways where just the unity with another person, we get sucked into relying too much on them for our health, for our safety, for our well-being, for our story about ourselves. And what we're always kind of aspiring for in self-leadership and also within the context of relationship is interdependence, healthy interdependence. So there's this energetic kind of distinction between codependence, which is I'm only going to be okay if you. Whereas interdependence is a self-fulfilling realization that I am responsible for myself, I can take care of myself, and I choose to acknowledge that the human experience is built off of a biology that survives and thrives in community. We are not designed to be as fucking isolated as we are in this day and age, and it's part of the reason I think why codependency is so rampant, because we're so isolated, because we're so disconnected from each other. When we get into relationship, we're like, finally someone can save me from myself. So there's so much to be said about, building that sense of self within yourself. You can watch some of my other content to learn how to deepen that. And when we come out of a relationship, we go through a breakup, we need to embrace interdependence. We need to lean on the village. So that means calling in the friends, the family members, the coaches, the support system that's going to hold you. And you need to let yourself be whole. To be self-led does not mean to isolate. It means to consciously and sometimes courageously, because sometimes there's a limiting belief about, a deservingness to be held by others, reaching out and asking for help. So embrace your interdependence and acknowledge that there's going to be what I think is really elegantly called a needs vacuum. Part of our codependence, interdependence, wherever along the spectrum you exist within a relationship, we do have needs met by the other person that are all of a sudden not being met by this person. So there are needs for belonging, for connection, for intimacy, to be heard, to be seen, to be understood. These are our needs, and it is our responsibility to meet them. And when we go through a breakup, and sometimes it happens really just quickly, we go from having the expectation that certain needs are going to be met by this person, and sometimes far too many of those needs into way too much of a dependency, to all of a sudden we don't have any of those needs being met by this person or the opportunity, and we got to figure out what the fuck do I do to meet these needs. So this is why it is so important to, again, as a self-led, self-responsible human being, you are responsible for your needs, and in the absence of someone else who is, for a certain period of time, been expected or hopefully communicated to help meet your needs, you have to figure out what to do in this vacuum. And so this is why it's so important to call in community and to make sure you're satisfying your very real needs. A big part of this is validation and perspective, to be heard, to be seen, to be understood. And we can satisfy so much of that within ourselves. So journaling is a really beautiful practice to do. Voice noting yourself, talking to yourself. All of these are going to help you feel seen, heard, and understood by yourself. And we need that from community, like to be seen by another in our hurt and in our hope and in our full human experience is so fucking important for our health and our well-being. And so I really encourage you in this moment in time to, and again, there's a vulnerability to it, to embrace interdependence. And not only are you going to get validated, but I hope that you find people and you ask for people And you might not need to do this or might not want to do this right at the get-go, because there's a lot of hurt and different feelings that come up that you may just need validation. You may just need to be seen in your hurt and for the story that you are telling yourself. But at a certain point, you also want to call on people that are going to offer you perspective, that are going to offer you new perspectives. And hopefully this is where you're at right now, because I'm offering some perspectives that may challenge kind of where you've been at. So we want to have a balance in our community of both, acknowledging what we're going through, but also, helping challenge and evolve and grow us, which is ultimately what this opportunity is about. We don't want to stay stuck in the same patterns. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. Okay. Feeling is healing. This is where it's really difficult, but so fucking essential. In order to emerge out of this different, more empowered, more in love with yourself, more passionate, more aligned with yourself and your purpose, you have to feel the whole fucking thing as much as possible. I highly recommend staying sober. Alcohol, drugs, unless you're using them consciously, and I'm not saying that I haven't in my breakup used psychedelics, for example, in small increments intentionally. If you are using them to repress or avoid what you are feeling, you're just stuffing it down. Again, goofy ass politicians probably got shit-faced through their breakups. And now all of that emotion and grief and anger and resentment and pain and hurt and insecurity and the stories that they told themselves about themselves because of the breakup, they carry that into their leadership style. And so the most courageous and loving and compassionate thing you can do for yourself and for others is to face this head on. And it's not fucking easy. And it's going to be messy and it's complicated. And I want to normalize that. It is such a confusing experience because there's so much that we are grieving. Not only are we grieving the loss of someone physically, which, to zoom over here to the breakup biology, we literally are triggering the same areas in our brain that are triggered through addiction. Our attachment is an addiction. And there's a survival base in that, because humans on a biological evolutionary level are trying to survive through procreation. And so there's an ego mechanism to hook ourselves into them, to hook our identity into them. And that's literally like breaking an addiction. So there is a withdrawal. There's a biochemical and cognitive, emotional withdrawal that we go through. And it's so messy. So I just want to normalize that everything you're feeling is fucking normal. The confusion, the rage, the resentment, the sadness, the anguish, all of it is normal. All of it is normal. Please normalize it for yourself. I felt all of this shit. And it's uncomfortable. And it's scary. The fear is normal too. There's so many emotions that are coming up. We talk about the stages of grief, from denial, confusion, depression, rage, and eventually to acceptance. You're going to go up and down, back and forth, and it's okay. You think it's over, then you come back. Ride the waves and be very gentle and graceful with yourself. This is where self-compassion is the secret sauce. And let's couple this with getting in your body, meditating, and moving, because the feeling, the healing, the emotions, they happen in the body. We spend a lot of time in our minds trying to analyze and figure it out. And there's a certain health to that in expressing and processing the emotions. And a lot of times it can really be an avoidance of what we need to feel in our body by going up into our heads. So we really want to, in order to feel, heal, and process and move, get in touch with our body's natural digestive system. And I'm not talking about food digestion, I'm talking about emotional digestion, because our body is wired to do it. And all of the drinking and the avoidance and the repression that we have been entrained in to do in this society has disconnected us from that natural digestive system. And so what I'm calling you for to do here is to reconnect with that. So getting in your body, exercise, yoga, walking, breathing. All of these things are going to help you connect with the system. Meditate, turning towards yourself, turning towards what you're feeling. A really beautiful question that you can ask yourself, if you're feeling, let's say you're feeling grief. A lot of time we feel it in our chest and it's super tight and it's tight in our jaw. We want to push it down. We want to get fucked up or follow some sort of compulsion to get away from the discomfort. Can you turn towards it? Can you be with this? Can I be with this? Can I just breathe while the tightness is in my chest? Can I go for a walk and see if it'll move a little bit? Vigorous exercise can be super fucking helpful, especially when there is the rage and the depression, to help start to move energy. We want to find this really beautiful balance of being with the emotions, feeling the emotions, and then finding, when it feels intuitive, some space to start to move them, but not expecting them to go away forever, not pushing them away, but saying, hey body, let's get some movement here. There's a really great meditation practice called RAIN. It's a self-compassion practice. I have a guided meditation. I will post it at the end of this video. I highly, highly recommend this as a daily practice for just this, for the feeling is healing aspect of this process. Giving yourself grace, because again, it's messy. Your brain is going through a mind fuck, a brain fuck, and we really have to just learn to be gentle with ourselves and to give space to the emotional experience and also to support it in moving, not staying stuck in it. Okay? So much more to be said on that, but we're going to move along. We also want to find balance by creating joy and embracing possibility. So you want to connect with and start creating the new life you'll love living. A big part of what we're grieving is not just the person, but also the dreams and the future that we expected we were going to have. We had, if you think about the universe, is this pure 360-degree possibility that is our life. And we had myopically kind of chosen this route, and depending on what stories you've told yourself about where you're going and what you're going to do with this person, what your life is going to look like, it can be very zoomed in and laser focused on this super small sliver. And it's very difficult for the ego and the mind to break away from those expectations. And so having compassion for the fact that you're not just grieving the person, you're also grieving the dream. Sometimes you're grieving the place that you lived in together. You're in transition, you're moving. This is all very world shattering. So it's you're breaking down to build up. And there's an intuitiveness to this. I think in the stage where you're really still deeply grieving, we want to find some balance of, and I personally, as a really deep feeler, I'm also a deep healer who is on my own journey of emotional intelligence and learning how to work with the emotions. I've had the struggle of getting stuck in the emotions. And while we want to feel them, we also don't want to wallow in them. And we want to create balance in this process by creating some joy. So this is really about self-care, really taking good care of yourself. It comes back to the community aspect of things and connecting with people, finding belonging, creating new ways to meet your needs for joy, for play, for adventure, making sure that you're intentionally creating some time and space and giving attention to these aspects of yourself. And there's a balance here, So all of these things that I'm talking about, so going on a trip or going out to nice restaurants or getting a massage, all of these things that can be self-care, we want to have this really intentional energy of balance of I'm going to feel my shit. I'm not going to avoid it. And then I'm going to move towards the self-care and the joy creation as a way to balance and create space and love and to hold the darkness in the light. And all of this part can be used as an avoidance strategy. It can be used as escapism. And if you really get in tune with yourself and you sit and you meditate, you'll know the difference. Am I running away from the feeling part? Again, this is where we could just get kind of fucked up, and it doesn't have to be drinking. It can be on traveling or sleeping with other people. that's maybe creating, I would say that's creating pleasure, which is, important to do in these moments. Absolutely. We want to create pleasure for ourselves, but we really want to make sure that the energy is intentional and loving and supporting our process, not avoiding the process. So there's this balance. And, I think you got to really just kind of turn inward and be honest with yourself. Like, am I running away from something? And if we give enough attention to the difficulty and we give enough attention to embracing the possibilities, and I'm going to come back to this. So none of this is linear. We're going to kind of go back. You're going to oscillate back and forth between these things. There's an intuition to this, and it's a learning curve. And if it's your first breakup or it's your second breakup or your third breakup, you're probably, it's hard. I'm still figuring it the fuck out. We want to create a beautiful balance and to give space for the full rainbow of the human experience without getting stuck in one side or the other to too much of an extreme. Part of this is embracing possibility of what you get to make out of your life as a result of the death of this myopic view. And so as you start to go through your process of feeling and grieving and creating joy, your view of the possibility, this 360 possibility, starts to loosen and can start to widen. And what I want to offer for you at the, edge of this process is that you have the potential to open back up to a full 360-degree view of possibility. And coming from fear, that's really scary. But if you're really doing this process fully as a way to deepen self-love, self-compassion, self-respect, self-trust, trust in the universe, you're really just going to open back up to like, oh shit, there are so many awesome fucking things that get to come out of this. And that's the energy we want to start to move towards. But we got to grieve. We got to give space for that to loosen up. And then we get to start to, in balance, create some of the possibilities of like, whoa, like I don't have to deal with this person's bullshit anymore. And I get to feel more regulated in my nervous system. And maybe I can go do that trip that I really wanted to do that I didn't feel like I got to do before. Or I could get a massage every day if I wanted to. And I could create the business that I wanted to and really put my energy into that. What's possible for you? What's possible for you? Start to think about that. We want to take this as an opportunity to learn. And this is so huge, and it's built off of the past three. We want to create enough safety and regulation and courage in the system and in the process to be able to reflect honestly on ourselves, on the relationship, to look deeply within and say, hey, how did I contribute to the failure of this relationship? And bringing in an attitude of failing upward. We talk about failing forward is a way to learn from failure and take it as an opportunity to grow and apply our learnings so that we can be better in the future. But I love this idea of failing upward. Like, how can you take the lessons learned and use them to evolve? Again, to open up more possibility, to more deeply love yourself, to more deeply love one another, and to more deeply love your future partners. There is a beautiful opportunity if we can reflect honestly, and it's built off of the compassion of the past few steps. Like, we have to, I know, for example, that I felt a lot of shame and guilt and ultimately regret, and the deeper layer is sadness and anguish over mistakes made in past relationships. And if we can feel into those levels and be honest with ourselves, we then create the space for application. Now I get to take this as a learning opportunity. Now I can say, thank you, life, for showing me where I'm not free, for teaching me the lessons that I needed to learn so that I can grow, so that I can heal, so that I can be a better lover for myself, so that I can be a better leader for myself, so that I can be a better lover and a leader for the world around me, for my loved ones, for my family, for my communities, for those that I want to serve. This is, I think, really challenging, and one of the most beautiful practices encouraged that we can do, because As you'll go through the waves of breakup, there can be so much resentment and anger and blame, and we have to, and that's the ego trying to grip and hold on to this fucking, ugh. And it's like, don't let me die. Don't let me die. Like the dream, we gotta hold it because it thinks that's what's gonna keep you safe. It wants familiarity. And when that's disseminating, it's fucking painful. And we do, our minds, our brains do everything in their power to make it about them, to make it about the other person. And we have to counteract that, and that's part of the evolution. And again, this is what the politicians didn't do. They let the blame, and I'm not saying all politicians are bad, but I mean, great fucking examples. They let the blame run the fucking show. They let the resentment run the fucking show. And it's just a disservice to your own personal power, because we can stay stuck in the pointing the finger and looking outside of ourselves for our story about ourselves, or we can take radical fucking responsibility built off of self-compassion and learn upon reflection, learn upon radical self-honesty, and use that as a gift to ourselves to grow, to evolve, a gift for others to grow and to evolve. Easier said than done, but this is how you change your fucking life. This is how you change the fucking game. Gotta face this shit. Finally, choose your own story. And this is built off of that. You know, it's like you can, wow, you know, like in my last relationship, I realized a lot of patterns that caused a lot of hurt. And I felt a lot of shame initially, and then a lot of regret and sadness and feeling that. And then at the end of the day, I can choose to think I'm a bad person, I fucked up, or that, you know, I'm unlovable. You can, and there's some subconscious levels to this. And depending on how much trauma you've experienced in your life, there's going to be deeper rooted grips on some of these self-defeating stories. But at the end of the day, you have to take the opportunity. If you want to grow and heal and fully like evolve from this and level the fuck up, you have to choose to tell your own story. So you can let your brain tell you these bullshit stories, these self-limiting, self-defeating, self-deprecating stories, or you can choose to tell yourself a story of courage, of compassion, of care, of love, of self-respect, and possibility, potency, potential for who do I get to be? Who do I get to become as a result of this? And we want to start asking ourselves these open-ended questions. What if this was exactly what I needed from life to grow and evolve and change? What if it all works out? What if these lessons that I learn get to make me happier, healthier, more whole? What if this is all guiding me to the right person for me, or keeping me on the right path, even though the ego, our small story that we're trying to, again, degrip from and evolve out of, even though it's trying so, just like a fucking asshole to keep us in the small story. What if there was something greater than that? This requires acceptance of what is, trust in what will be, and that you are in exactly the right fucking place for you. You are exactly where you're meant to be. And it requires courage, because that ego is packing fear, like fucking double holstered fear, and it's trying to keep you afraid. And if you can meet it with courage and compassion, just breathe. There's something greater for you. And I think it's helpful to think about it. Imagine that it's coming. And I think it's even more powerful to just recognize that it's right here. A big part of this is creating closure. And this is so difficult with the way that we are hooked. I think of these little fish hooks, and like in my process, just like acknowledging these little fish hooks where my mind goes to like this person and how they view me and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, that's you losing your power to something outside of yourself. And it's difficult in the context of a breakup, because sometimes we don't have the opportunity to hear from the other person what we want to hear. to feel okay. And we have to take the radical responsibility to create that closure and that okayness and that safety and to choose our own story for ourselves. At the end of the day, we are uncoupling the hook that we have unconsciously let ourselves snag into another person in a story about a relationship. We have to imagine pulling a hook out. Like, it's painful. You have to pull it out, to pull out each one. And you have to create your own closure. You have to choose for yourself that this is where I want to be. This is how I want to move forward. I'm going to fucking face this process. It's hard. I have compassion for how confusing it can feel. But at the end of the day, you have to you don't have to, you do whatever the fuck you want to do. But I encourage you to make meaning out of the mess. And as we continue to do this, and again, none of this is linear. It happens in stages. It goes back and forth and up and down. We're going to go back to all of these. We're just going back and forth, kind of making sure all pistons are firing. But as more and more space in the process starts to open up, we're coming back here. This is where I believe we want to park our car at the end of the road trip, is creating joy and embracing possibility. Creating not just joy, but purpose, passion, health, happiness, contribution, whatever you want to fucking create in your life. The level up is that if you do this process justice, if you brave the whole fucking thing all the way through, and it's not, I just want to encourage you to be mindful that this is not a 1 and a 0. You don't do this right or wrong. There are healthy, more functional, and best self-encouraging ways to approach this, and there are less so ways to approach this. So don't think that it's a 1 and 0 and you're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong, that you have to do all of this. But if you even just pull a little snippet from each of these slides to aspire to and practice in your process, you're going to have a better time. It may be harder before it gets easier. Actually, I disagree, because I think just getting drunk and avoiding the processing is actually more painful than just feeling it and letting it move. If you just pull little bits from all of this, there is more freedom and more joy and more possibility and more self-love, respect, trust, leadership within you available to you than if you avoid it. And so the possibility that the level up, the evolution that you get to experience as a result of this process is proportionate to the perspective of how you face the pain of it. And where we want to, at the end of the road trip, and maybe parking the car is not the right example, but you're driving into the sunset and you're looking out. I have this, I live in Denver. When I first moved to Denver, you see the Rocky Mountains and you're just like, wow, like what's on the other side? Oh my God, like there's this whole world out there. We want to be driving out into the sunset, just clear and solid as we can be in who we are. And where I really would love for you to be at the end of this process, and I guess maybe there's not so much of an ending as much of a continuation. But when days start to get easier and you start to feel more whole and the grief has passed and the resistance has passed and there's acceptance and embrace and openness more and more in your heart and in your body and in your being, we wanna land in a place of, wow, the world is at my fucking fingertips. And I'm so grateful and glad for that. And that's possible for you. It's possible for all of us. And I'm here with you. My heart is here with you. I love you so much. You are so loved. I'm a part of your community. I'm a part of your village. And know that there are so many people out there right now going through just so many of the same human experience that you are going, the same, so much of the same human experience that you are going through, and that it's okay, it's normal, you're not alone. And across the many years of human experience, there has been so much heartbreak, or I like to say heartache. Maybe you feel heartbreak. Potential for heart opening. And the question is, what do you do with it? Are you going to let it ruin you? Are you going to let it break you down? Are you going to let it fester and give you evidence for why you're not enough? Are you going to face that shit and let it break you the fuck open and create magic with it? Create potency, create love, and create power with it. That's the invitation here. And I wish you courage through the waves, and I wish you emergence on the other side. I'm here with you. Holler in the comments if something resonated here with you that you want to share, or you have a question, and I'm going to post a link. Popping up will be the rain meditation. I highly recommend this as a way to encourage the feeling is healing aspect of this. So much love. Have a beautiful now and a beautiful future.